So last time our wellness tip number 4, last time our wellness tip number 3 was the benefits of sleep. Just an overview of why sleep is so good and what's so helpful for sleep. Yeah, exactly. And this week, brought to us by our partners and our friends at Sleep Number, is wellness tip number 4. And this actually comes from them. And this is 5 steps to get better sleep. And these are, so last time we talked about the benefits of sleep. So now it's like, well, that's great. I hear the benefits, but how do I actually do it? Yeah. Do you struggle with sleep at all, by the way? Have I asked you this?
Yes, as of late, yes. Yeah. So I never did. Yeah. Never. Sleep was never an issue. Like I was the guy that I'd walk in and my wife would want to have a conversation and I'd be asleep 3 sentences into it. And I'd go through the night.
That's how I am.
And I would say the last 3 or 4 years, it's completely shifted where she's exhausted. She gets into bed, she's out, and I'm sitting there like mind going a million miles an hour. And, you know, it's a lot of it's self-inflicted because like my mind, and then I try to do this and I try to do that and then I get going. But yes, so once I go to sleep for the most part, and then I'm excited because I guess when this airs, tomorrow, I'll be 1 day away from getting my Sleep Number installed, my Sleep Number bed installed. And so I've had like back issues more so. So I've been like uncomfortable because we have an old mattress. I mean, we've been on that mattress for like 7 or 8 years. Yeah. So I've got my little canyon in the bed, and I'm
just
excited.
wait. Yeah, just wait till you get it, dude. Because I had a competitor mattress for the longest time. To be honest with you, when I got this bed a few days ago, I was thinking, there's no way it's going to be as good. Yeah. And it's just wait. Okay. We'll talk about it after you've experienced your first. So anyway, 5 tips. Now I'm like you used to be. I'm literally, as soon as my head hits the pillow, I'm out. And I've actually been told that's actually a sign that I am sleep deprived, which I didn't know. They say you shouldn't necessarily go to sleep that fast. It means you're too exhausted. But I guess intuitively I do these 5 things. But sleep's not an issue for me, thankfully. Yep. Thank goodness. But if it is an issue for you, I know it's an issue for Darren. If it is an issue for you, hopefully, you know, implementing these 5 tips from Sleep Number will actually be beneficial and helpful to you. So tip number 1, 5 steps to better sleep. Tip number 1 is know your bedtime and stick to one sleep schedule. Now, this one's hard, right? And I'll speak for me personally. You know, I wake up early during the week, and it's really hard, but I've started to do this because of this tip. I've started to wake up at least within 30 minutes of my normal wake-up time. But that's a really bizarre concept if you wake up super early during the week to think, I got to do that on Saturday and Sunday too. So the idea behind this is you go to bed at about the same time and wake up at about the same time, no matter what day of the week it is. So I think most of us think during the week we're going to be super strict. Weekends, I'm going to stay up till midnight, wake up at 8, right? The problem with that is, and again, I'm no expert, this is according to Sleep Number, the problem with that is that it gets you out of your sleep rhythm. Yeah. And so you actually, you might technically be getting more hours of sleep, but you're actually going to get that groggy feeling. Your body's gotten used to a sleep rhythm that now that you're getting out of that. So their suggestion, sleep tip number 1, is try to go to bed and wake up within 30 minutes of each day.
On the wake up and
the go to sleep. Try to keep that consistent.
So what happens, what do you think? I mean, what happens if, let's say, you've got something, like you go to a concert or a date night or you're hanging with friends and you're later, right? So you get home at 11:30, 12 o'clock. Right. Do you still try to get up at the same time? Do you just have less sleep that day? What's better?
That's a good question. I guess that would be for the actual sleep experts. Yeah. For me personally, I do give myself a little bit more time to sleep in that morning. Yeah. I'll just, because the first thing I do when I wake up typically is work out. So I'll just not work out the next day. Yeah. Something like that. Yeah. But the idea is that all of your bodily functions, everything goes along smoother if it's in more of a rhythm. Okay. And if you're just sporadic with everything, it just knocks everything else out of rhythm. Okay. Sleep tip number 2, or step number 2 to get better sleep. Eliminate all caffeine starting at 2 p.m. So I don't know if you knew this, but caffeine has what's called a half-life of about 8 hours, which means that it's still effective in your system during this time. Now, I recognize I'm talking to the man who consumes more caffeine than anybody I've ever met in my life. So for you, maybe this step isn't applicable. Maybe you can drink a Monster Red Line at 5 p.m. and you're going to go to bed and be just fine?
I'll be honest with you. I've taken a pre-workout at 7 o'clock, worked out, and I was asleep by 9:30, 10. Like, no issues.
Do you feel like you had still great sleep that night?
I think so. Yeah. I typically, like, if I work out at night, the workout wakes me up probably more than the caffeine does. At this point right now, like you said, I've got to really address my caffeine issue just because it's more placebo than it is anything. Just because, like, I'm desensitized to it.
Right. Which is not good.
No, it's not good at all. Not at all. But yeah, so again, it's case by case, but this makes sense because if I know like if my wife has a coffee at 3 o'clock, she's not sleeping.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you've got to be very, very conscious of when you're consuming a stimulant, because then that does affect your sleep, keeps you up later, or you don't hit that restful. And that's the other thing too, is hitting certain levels of sleep.
Right.
It affects that. You may actually think that you're asleep, but you're not hitting the levels of sleep that you need to.
No, and that's exactly the point I was about to make. Yes, some of us are more sensitive to caffeine than others, and you and I'm honestly not that sensitive to caffeine. But I think their point is, some people it may affect and they may not be able to fall asleep. Yeah. Others like you and I, maybe we can still fall asleep, but we're not getting into those deep stages of sleep that we would normally get because of that caffeine is still in our system. So it can either prevent you from falling asleep or it can prevent you from getting quality sleep. So just be mindful, especially if you're more sensitive, be mindful of, and I don't think there's anything magical about 2 p.m. I think that's just more of in line with most people probably go to bed at 9 or 10 o'clock. And so that gives that caffeine time to kind of cruise through your system. So keep in mind that if you have trouble sleeping and you are sensitive to caffeine, maybe try eliminating it starting at 2 p.m. Number 3, no alcohol within 3 hours of bedtime. So same concept as caffeine, alcohol actually keeps you from reaching the deep stages of sleep. Now, again, maybe you don't have an issue falling asleep, but it actually prevents you from reaching those deep stages of sleep. It dehydrates you. And depending on how much you drink, it can actually wake you up in the middle of the night, and that's usually go to the bathroom. So anytime you're waking up in the middle of the night, that's not a great thing for your sleep rhythm.
And this is so contrary to like very, very common practice is like, oh, I need to drink a glass of wine before I go to sleep, or I need to have a whiskey, or I need whatever, right? And it's contrary because it may relax you, it may just kind of dull everything, but what it does, to your point, is you don't hit these levels of sleep, and you have irregularities while you're sleeping that don't allow you to have the recovery that you need. And we had Dr. Bruce on at the very beginning, and this is one of the things he talked about, and he said, look, a general rule is for every ounce of alcohol that you have, you need an hour. Right. So if you have like a glass of wine, right, one serving of wine, wait at least an hour. I know this says 3 hours, but if you have like, hey, look, I've got a small glass of wine, for every drink that you have, ounce of liquor, glass of wine, or a beer, wait a full hour before you go to sleep, because what it does is it just starts the recovery process off rough.
Yeah. So thankfully, I don't really ever drink, so this isn't an issue. But if you think alcohol is helping you go to sleep, maybe it does, but they're showing that you're not getting that restful sleep. You're not getting those deep stages of sleep.
Yeah. So point is, if you're a drinker, start drinking at 2 p.m.
There you go. That's exactly the point. Exactly. Tip number 4 or step number 4, daily exercise. Talks about something you said a second ago. Daily exercise, but stop at least 4 hours before bed. So exercise is awesome. Yeah. Right. Getting daily exercise is great. It gets you energy. It boosts your mood. It does all these great things. I guess the point here is, though, if you do that too close to bedtime, you're jacked up, you're ready, you're excited, you got this great mood, and now I've got to wind down and try to go to sleep. Those things don't really work. So get your exercise, but hopefully it can be earlier on during the day so that you're not trying to battle with your sleep.
That's right. Time. Give yourself time to wind down. So this was really a big deal. It's partly the caffeine too, but when I was playing, we'd have a night game. And, 7:30 kickoff, we'd play, and then, game's over, 10:30. I couldn't go to sleep until 3, 4 o'clock just because the amount of energy, that I used during the game, it got my system so heightened and so alert and functioning and clicking on all cylinders. Like working out does the same thing. And so like even in college, I had this weird deal. I loved working out at night. One, because the gym was typically empty, and it was like, okay, I could go do it. And like, I don't know, maybe just an ego thing where it's like, okay, I'm working when everyone's asleep kind of deal. Or I'm working Friday night when everybody's at the bar. And maybe it was that, but then I'd come home and then I'd be like, all right, I'm going to clean the house at 10 p.m. or 11 p.m. Because it's like you got so much juice. And so what it does, right, is it elevates your metabolic system and you just get going. And then it's like for that thing to ramp down, it takes some time.
Yeah. Yep. And last but not least, and this one speaks to more about what you do in the morning that sets you up for that night's sleep, is 15 minutes of morning sunlight each morning. So it says getting outside in the sun for 15 minutes each morning helps regulate the production of melatonin, and melatonin is your sleep hormone. Internal body clock runs on a 24-hour schedule and functions best when you're exposed to a regular pattern of light and dark. I think this goes back to our early times as human beings when we would get up with the sun and go to bed with the sun, at sundown. So it's just that light exposure first thing in the morning, kind of get your body clock going.
Yeah.
And then that 24-hour, clock starts and it kind of just leads you into a normal pattern throughout the day, which leads you into your nighttime.
So for those of you that that may be up early, like Ben and myself now, it's been a journey, but now, I work out at 5:00. So there's not light. So what can you do? And one thing is I went to a neurological seminar talking about like brain function and maximizing. And one of the things that he talked about was to get up out of bed in the morning, it's really important to turn a light on. So like if you have a spouse or you have somebody, go into the bathroom, turn the light on. Don't ease into it. Turn a light on right away, because that's what wakes you up. That's what gets you going, and that's what turns your system on. Like you talked about, the healthy balance of light and dark. But if you're just kind of like creeping around in the dark, it takes a little while for you to get up. But then the vitamin D and going outside, when that happens, let's say you start working when it's still dark outside, get the lights on though. Get the alertness going, because that gets you up and that starts that clock. So when it's ready to go to bed at night, right? Okay, your body knows, okay, hey, I was up early. Now it's time to go. Now it's time to go to bed.
Yep. So to recap those 5 steps, number 1, know your bedtime and stick to one sleep schedule. Yes, that includes weekends. Number 2, eliminate all caffeine starting at 2 p.m. Number 3, no alcohol within 3 hours of bedtime. Number 4, exercise daily, but try to stop 4 hours before your bedtime. And then 15 minutes of morning sunlight. So if you're struggling with sleep, hopefully a couple or all of these tips might help you out. Might as well try them out. And again, that's brought to us by our friends at Sleep Number. Go to sleepnumber.com. Some other resources that I like besides Sleep Number, Dr. Michael Bruce that Tyler referenced. He's known as the Sleep Doctor, and his website's thesleepdoctor.com. Ton of great blogs, ton of great articles he writes if sleep is something you're interested in. Another couple of resources I like, Dr. Matthew Walker. He's at thesleepdiplomat.com, and he also has a podcast called the Matt Walker Podcast, and then Andrew Huberman, who has a podcast called Huberman Lab. And another one, Tyler, we wear these Whoop straps. I don't know if they send these daily or weekly emails, and sometimes it's more all about wellness, but a lot of times it has to do with sleep.
Very, very focused on recovery for sure.
Yeah, and so they're a great resource. So if you're confused, you want to get to know more, definitely go check out one of those resources to help you guys get better sleep.
And listen, we spent a lot of time on this wellness segment for a reason, because the importance of recovery, the importance of sleep, it really is. You think, okay, I work hard, I grind. Like there's this pride associated with working really hard. Well, you need to equally work as hard for the recovery and sleep aspect, because it is just as, if not more important. You're talking about lack of sleep and recovery, what that does to your actual physical body, right? You carry more body fat. Your metabolism doesn't work the same. So all of these things work together, and we wanted to spend some extra time on the actual sleep aspect of it. And thank you to Sleep Number, our partner, provided some information. Make sure to go check them out. Make sure to go either on their website or go into a store, because now they can provide you with the actual products to help elevate that level of sleep.
Definitely.